Thank you for your kind introduction. I'm Oike of MOFA. Thank you for having me here. Right now, Mr. Kobayashi, Vice Minister for Global Environment Affairs, Ministry of Environment, Japan, talked about the intent of the symposium. So let me share with you some of the challenges that we face and perhaps pose questions. In the hope that these questions will serve as the basis of our discussion this afternoon. So this is where we are. I want to share with you the puzzles that we face, things that we struggle with. Last year, 2015, was a very difficult year for me. It's been almost 30 years since I joined MOVA, but perhaps 2015 was the year which I struggled the most. So 2015 was a very challenging year. As you know, back in March in Sendai, we had a conference on disaster risk reduction. In Addis Ababa, we had a conference on development finance. And the summit in September, UN summit in September, and COP21 in December. I mean, I was in charge of all these conferences and multilateral dialogue. I cursed myself as unfortunate, but I had to work with a diet as well, and Mr. Takemi was very much supportive of what I was doing back in 2015. So again, 2015 was a very tough year for me, but at the same time, it was a rewarding year as well. I'm glad that I was kept busy during 2015. Why I say this? Because it's not because I was able to be engaged in different initiatives, but 2015 was the year. From the perspective of Development Agenda UN, 2015 was epoch-making year, in a sense, revolutionary. And this was illustrated by the Sendai Declaration and the Sendai Disaster Risk Reduction Framework. The things that we achieved in 2015, when we talk about development in the UN world, traditionally it has been about assisting advanced countries assisting developing countries, but it was totally different. This started from the history of colonization. So they say that it was an obligation for advanced countries to assist and aid developing countries. That has been the tradition. And this has traditionally been the undercurrent of our debate on development at UN. But looking at Sendai Addis Ababa documents and UN Summit and Paris Convention and related COP decisions, if you look at these instruments, you see that this structure has changed in 2015. So that, I believe, was the biggest achievement last year. This is only natural because things have changed in the world, and UN instruments and framework need to change, along with the changes that are taking place around the world. But this was very difficult to realize. Many people participated in numerous negotiations, and there were heated debates. And during COP21, as Mr. Kobayashi knows, we have been running around to reach an agreement to strike a deal. So this was a result of efforts made by many, but this is a significant change that we witnessed in 2015. And as Mr. Kobayashi said earlier on, this resulted in global partnership, and universal application of a UN instrument is happening for the first time in history. So this instrument is completely new in terms of its style. So we are in 2016. So we now have this instrument in place, but we have to demonstrate that we can actually implement this document. Now, to tell you the truth, when it comes to advanced countries, 2030 Agenda, SDGs, advanced countries are now seriously looking at implementing SDGs, and I think it holds true for you, but this is the universal application for the first time in history. Therefore, advanced countries are serious to take a leadership in implementing the SDGs with a strong leadership, and this also applies to Japan. How to implement SDGs is easier said than done. Between November and December last year, we instructed our embassies in diplomatic corps abroad to find out the initiatives on the ground, and we found that major countries are taking these agenda seriously and trying to implement SDGs. But I think it is only Germany and Switzerland which seem to know what they actually have to do. Other countries are still in a trial error process. Having said that, this year international conferences are slated, Isashima Summit being one. OECD Ministerial in June. Their 2030 agenda will be discussed amongst advanced countries in July. The first follow-up will be held, and in September, UN General Assembly will be held. So this is the series of international conferences slated for this year. And what are we going to do with 2030 agenda? We'll continuously discuss. And Isashima will be the first international conference of a major kind after the adoption of SDGs. And as the presidency, Japan needs to demonstrate initiative in implementing SDGs. You may think that there's no need for Japan to exert leadership, but if Japan cannot exert leadership, we'll be ashamed. We should feel ashamed. Therefore, the environment is such that Japan needs to propose concrete suggestions. There are three challenges, and I know that this will be discussed during our discourse today, but what kind of organization and system are we going to establish in Japan? Government agencies, corporate businesses, NGOs, and foundations from different standpoints. How are these stakeholders engaged in the whole process? That is something that we need to address. And which area are we going to work on? SDG covers many areas, so there are many areas to tackle. And environment, it can be an easier area to tackle, but there are more challenging areas, for example, poverty, disparity, inequality. These are challenges that are more difficult to tackle, and these issues, Japan is not immune from these issues. So the question is, how are we going to tackle some of the more difficult goals? And stakeholders will try to address the challenges from different vantage points, but there is going to be a need for dialogue and deepening of understanding amongst different stakeholders, and that I believe is going to be a challenge as well. Now, some of the SDGs are international in nature, for example, overseas assistance. Last year, in 2015, the biggest challenge or the keyword for international financing was leveraging. In the year of 2015, Green Climate Fund, which was established as a result of framework agreement, and Japan has committed to contribute 1.5 billion, and I serve as a board member representing the Japanese government. But the GCF's major theme is to efficiently and effectively use public finance, public funding, which is increasingly dwindling as we speak, so that we can allocate resources for the advancement of developing countries. So leveraging what we have, what we can allocate. For the first time, health, climate change. For the first time, we introduced a scheme to provide private insurance schemes. A premium will be paid by the public fund, and when things sour, the insurance claim can be applied. So this is a way to leverage the availability of the financing. This is a way to leverage financing, and we have a project of geothermal in Kenya, and private sector support projects under the GCF umbrella. In these projects, how to mobilize private sector financing has been discussed in much detail last year. Japan is a proponent of quality infrastructure, education, health, women, and disaster risk reduction. These are some of the areas where Japan can provide a lot of expertise, and these are some of the Japanese strengths. What kind of solutions Japan can present will be a question for Japan this year. SDG, we still have 15 years to go, and SDGs are to be achieved in the next 15 years. For the process will have to be evolutionary. And I hope that today's discussion with all of you will serve as the basis for us implementing SDGs for many months and years to come. With that, I would like to conclude. Thank you very much.